You're listening to the Exponential Entrepreneur Podcast. This is the podcast for ambitious entrepreneurs who understand that exponential business growth isn't achieved through traditional business tactics alone, but through personal development, the ultimate leverage point to scale businesses beyond conventional limits. Hosted by Erika Ferenczi, featuring lessons from the Practical, Profitable Mindset program, created by R. John Robbins, Alejandra Leibovich, Erika, and Oscar Ferenczi. And here's your host, Erika Ferenczi.
Welcome to another one of our episodes. This week's lesson is about learning when to say no and how to justify your yes. Listen, early in business, saying yes to everything makes sense because you're experimenting and figuring out what works. But as your business grows, that same habit becomes dangerous. Too many commitments will create overwhelm, distraction, and burnout, and we don't want that for you. The shift will happen when you decide to focus on one major priority instead of chasing every opportunity that comes your way. And that is exactly what I will focus on this week. I will ask the participants and you to list one thing that you want to say yes to this week and separate a list of distractions that you need to say no to, with one key rule. That rule is that the yes must align with the most important area of life or business that you're working on and prioritizing right now. Whether it's your health, your time management, marketing, sales, hiring, or operations, it must be aligned. And before giving your full yes, entrepreneurs must create a one-page business case. That means asking very simple questions. Things like, how many hours will this project take? Or how many dollars will this cost? How will this project increase our overall revenue or our production, our marketing, our sales? Will this project free up time for higher value work? The thing is that even personal improvements count if they lead you and your team to better focus, more energy, and more productivity. This lesson will also emphasize emotional discipline. Saying no sometimes feels uncomfortable because it might disappoint people and create tension between you and them. But the thing is that avoiding that discomfort by saying yes to everything will only lead to broken promises and exhaustion for you. Ultimately, today's lesson will challenge business owners to become way more mature leaders. And that means being able to develop skill sets to narrow your focus, backing your decisions with data, protecting your personal well-being, and refusing anything that does not support the one thing that matters most right now in your business and sometimes in your life too. When every yes has a plan and every no protects your priorities, your business will become calmer, more profitable, and far more intentional. And what it is even best is that you will enjoy the process way more. So without further ado, join me for this episode. Let's listen. How to create a business case to justify your yes. So let me talk to you a little bit more about what this means. It's hard for you to say no to a few things or several things that you should be saying no to. Sometimes you say yes to a lot of things just because you don't want to say no, because you don't want to hold the tension of either saying no or holding the tension of the disappointment that you're going to create in people when you say no, right? We just don't say no because we don't want to hold the tension of saying no and holding the disappointment that might potentially create in people when we say no, or because it's just too painful. And what happens is that when it's painful, it becomes overwhelming. And when you get overwhelmed, then you guys, and we are all, when we get overwhelmed, we start running like chickens without a head, chasing something, and sometimes we even forget what we're chasing. and we forget the reason why we're chasing whatever we were chasing in the first place. So we don't know what we're chasing, and we forget the why behind the chase of something that we don't even know what it is. So let's go back to the beginning of your business. When anyone begins a business, what happens at the beginning of every business, or any endeavor that you start leaning and saying yes to or going into, what happens is at the very beginning, you have to say yes to everything and almost anything that comes your way. And one of the reasons why you have to say, or it's advisable that you say yes to pretty much anything that comes your way, is because you don't know what is going to work. Right? So at the beginning, you just don't know what is going to work, and you're exploring every single possible opportunity and thing that comes your way, and you just need to say yes to pretty much everything. But there's a moment, and that's when you're like, if you're riding a car, right, and you're stopping at a light or you're stopping in your driveway and you need to start driving the car, you're going to engage, if you are driving a stick shift, you're going to engage first gear. But if you're stopping at a light and you want to start your car on second gear, start moving your car on second gear, what's going to happen to the car? It will stall in the best case. In the worst case, it will turn off. It just won't move forward very fast or at all. Okay? Yeah. But once you're driving the car and then you engage second gear, maybe you get into a highway, you need third gear, fourth gear, fifth gear. Once that you are, 80 miles per hour, 70 miles per hour, 60 miles per hour, and you're in fourth or fifth gear, what would happen if you try to put in first gear? All hell will break loose. You're going to just break down that engine. Right? So at the beginning of your business, you have to say yes to pretty much everything to figure out what is going to work. What happens as you start growing your business is that there's a bunch of people out there in the world. Most of you get even angry or afraid when we tell you that you have to niche down. When we tell you that instead of having, 10 different areas of practice or 6, you should boil it down to 1. God forbid we tell you, you need to close down some areas of practice and boil it out to 1, because you get all scared. Oh my God, I am not going to have enough business. How am I going to pay the bills? But we tell you that you need to stop doing so many freaking things. And the problem is that for most people out there outside of the bubble, quote unquote, these business consultants and experts, what happens is that they think that you need a hammer for everything you do, and you should do everything. So they are telling you to do this and do that and do the other and chase all these bright, shiny objects. Because number one, they are not necessarily experts at what they do. And most of them are broke. So people start running like chickens without a head from event to event to event. And this event tells me to speak. And that event tells me to run PPC ads. And the other event tells me to fix my intake system. And this other event tells me to do videos and like chickens without a head everywhere. But there is a moment in your business, and most of you are in that moment, where you have to say no to things, where the way to build the business to the next level, faster, better, more profitable, is to say no to things. And that is what we will practice this week. We are going to practice saying no to some things, most things, and then we are going to practice create a business case, one-page business case with some numbers, just one page, not 18 pages, one page, business case for the things that we are going to say yes to. So more about that in a moment. You would be amazed at how many things do Arjun says no to on a consistent basis. He says no to most things. Sometimes people present to him multi-million-dollar opportunities, and he still says no to them. Why? Because he needs to stay focused on the one or two things that he already built a business case for and he's committed to. And that is part of being entrepreneurially mature. Please write that down. saying no to things that do not align with your business case, no matter how good they might be or how phenomenal they might seem, to stay focused on what matters for you in your business right now is part of being entrepreneurially mature. Now, this is where I am going to count on your ability to understand the nuances. I am not giving you rules. I don't want you. I am going to beg you to please do not make a rule out of this whole thing. Just understand the nuance of what are the things that you will consciously and maturely investigate further or put more thought into to decide whether you need to say yes or no, instead of just saying, well, Erika said that we should just say no to everything, so I'm just going to say no. Okay, that's not what we're going to do. We need to understand the nuance. Do not turn this into a white and black exercise, please. What are your goals? What are your priorities? What is that you want to get out of this program and this year for you, for your business, for your life? What are your priorities? We created and helped you create a plan to implement those priorities. But we understand what our priorities are. Now we need a plan on how to implement those priorities and how to put them on a calendar. They need to fit in your calendar. If they don't fit in your calendar, you can't implement them. Right now, let's take 2 minutes to write down the one thing that you want to say yes to this week. Maybe you have several opportunities. If you have several opportunities, you can write them all down. It's okay. We don't have to decide right now. If you have one opportunity, also write it down. Something that is coming your way that you really would like to say yes to. Write it down. I want you to make a list of things that you're going to say no to this week. Distractions, additional things that are going to distract you from whatever goal you have this week. What do you need to say no to this week? You have your list of things that you might consider saying yes to, or you have to say yes to, and the things that you might have to say no, or most likely need to say no in order to stay focused on your goals and your commitment. Now, one extra thing, make sure that the list of your yes, it is aligned with the most important thing for you in your life right now. It might be your health, it might be your marriage, it might be your marketing, it might be your billing, it might be there's just one thing in your life right now that needs to be improved or fixed. I know we all have a lot of things, but choose one, the most important thing that you know you need to fix, your calendar, whatever it is. Then your yes, the thing that you're going to say yes to this week, must be related to improving that area of your life that you know that needs improvement. And the next thing that we're going to do is to ensure that you guys create a one-page business case for that thing that you're going to say yes to. Let me explain what that means. What that means is that you're going to write down in a piece of paper, just numbers, you don't have to create narrative, about how saying yes to that activity this week or that project is going to make a profit for you. So this one-page business plan needs to explain how what you're saying yes to will make a profit. Most of the ways in which things can make you a profit is because they are either going to improve your billing, your marketing, the production of the services that your business produces, or the selling is going to improve your billing, your production, your marketing, or your selling. Or the thing that you're saying too is going to free up time for somebody else to dedicate into billing, production, marketing, selling. That is how you make a profit. Maybe improving the client experience. That would definitely improve your profit because your clients are going to be happier working with you. You're going to get more referrals. You're going to have better reviews. And you're going to get more business. So the thing that you're going to say yes to is either going to improve your billing, your production, your marketing, or your selling, or freeing up time for people for other people to dedicate more time into billing, production, marketing, selling. Okay, so you've got that part of the exercise. Now, let's talk about the tension of saying no. The tension that you feel when you say no. And let's start by talking about how mature individuals have a plan to implement or take action when they say yes to things. If you say yes to something without the plan of how you're going to make it work, you're just lying. You're just lying to yourself. You're just lying to other people. You might have great intentions. You might be a really giving individual that would like to say yes, but you don't have a plan on how you're going to make it work. So you're just lying. And that's how you end up overcommitted without the ability to fulfill on all of the things that you said yes to. The idea is that when you say yes to anything, you have a plan as to how you will make it work. Now, this whole exercise, remember that it is not a rule to live by, black and white. You need to be able to discern in your nuance on what things to say yes to and what things to say no to. And the idea is to prevent you from ending up buried and overwhelmed by the pile of shit that you have said yes to that you have no way of fulfilling. There's no way. So you're always feeling behind the eight ball, consistently overwhelmed, and without the ability to fulfill the full thing. So we're going to ask you to do this and try it out. We know that it's going to be uncomfortable and unfamiliar, as if we would ask you to wear your watch on the left wrist or your belt backwards and tie it behind on your back instead of, closing it in the front. We know it's going to be uncomfortable. We just want you to be able to recognize how uncomfortable and awkward it's going to be to say no to almost anything and everything that is not related to the one thing you're going to say yes to, at least for this and next week. In the future, you might change your yes and say yes to more things if you want to, but for this week and next, you're going to only say yes to the things that are related to that one thing that you must improve. And what that will create is it will give you a different experience. It will help you have a different experience where you only say yes to the thing that you want to do and it is most important for you. So you realize how many times in your business, in your daily life, do you say yes to things that you should really be saying no to? And what the exercise is, besides identifying the thing that you want to say yes to and creating a business case for it, and how is it going to make you a profit, and making a list of all the things that you're going to say no to, report on how it felt when you said no to. How did it feel when you said no to that thing or that person or that activity and you stayed focused? And also a list of the things that prevented you from experiencing. Because how many times have you said yes to something and you say yes to the idea of it, but suddenly in order to fulfill that one thing, you have to do a laundry list of things that now when you start doing them is highly uncomfortable and you hate the process. The idea sounded wonderful, but now you have to do the work and it fucking sucks. Okay, good. That's what we have for you this week. I'll take a few questions.
I think two things. One of them was maybe some clarification on the calendar. Like I do a lot of block calendaring and, I've been hearing over the weeks, just like plan out every hour or so, but that's not how I've been functioning. I see that as like, if life happens or something happens and you need to change the commitment for any reason, like you're going to go through and have to redo this perfect calendar. Like to me, like it just seemed like block calendaring is better, but I kind of wanted to get some clarification as to how you guys are talking about going through and calendaring your life.
Let me clarify to see if I understand your question. I believe that what you're asking me is what is the best way to manage your calendar? Because on one hand, you think that block calendaring of saying, okay, these 4 hours are going to be for marketing, for example, and these 5 hours for sales, and this other 10 for production. And generally blocking your calendar like that is better than saying from 9 to 10, I'm going to do this, and from 10 to 11, do that, etc. And you're trying to reconcile these two ideas. Is
Yes.
that what you're asking me?
Yes.
Okay. Because if something unexpected happens and then you have specific times in your calendar, now it's a disaster. And how do I make this work if the unexpected happens? Yes?
I feel like I'm making a lot of commitments that I don't necessarily intend on really honoring yet. Right. I think that's ultimately what it comes down to.
Okay. So this is great. I love this. Number one, the most important thing is if you're not planning on honoring the commitment, don't make the commitment. You're lying to yourself and you're lying to other people. If you know in advance that you don't plan to keep that commitment, you're not committing. That's not commitment. That is bullshitting yourself and bullshitting people. Number two, if you do plan on committing, the fact that your calendar is blocked with these specific activities from 9 to 10, I'm going to meet with, Sam. And then from 10 to 11:30, I'm going to meet with my marketing director, and et cetera. More specific, it will give you direction. What happens when you can definitely say, you know what, on Monday from 7 in the morning till 2 p.m., I'm working on X marketing campaign. You can do that. You don't have to say from 7 to 7:30, I'm going to write the email. From 7:30, that's not necessary. You can block for that as long as you can devote that time for the marketing calendar, the marketing activity.
Okay.
But the fact that you have it blocked with the specifics will give you a ton of direction. Because what happens when you just have the general block, when you get to the block, you have to think about what you should be doing at that moment. And by the moment that you figure out what you have to do, 30 minutes has passed. And then you get an email, and then you get a phone call, and then you get other things, and you're done. You're distracted. So it's much better when you do the specifics. Now, I'm going to go into the second part of the question, but does this make sense? Did I answer that part of the question?
Yeah.
Now, the second part is what to do when the unexpected happens. Well, number one is that the unexpected doesn't happen every day nor every week. It happens once in a while, but it's not a consistent. That's why it's unexpected. So when the unexpected happens, hopefully you have an assistant and you don't have to do shit. You just call your assistant and you say, something happened. You need to liberate my whole morning or my next 3 hours or tomorrow all day. Figure it out. I don't know. If you have questions, ask me. You know what? I can't find a space for this or that. Do you rather do this or do that? But you figure it out. That's why they exist, to figure it out with the criteria that you give them for decision making. So you don't have to do anything. You just need to instruct them to do something so you can take care of the unexpected. And you will be surprised. This is an additional bonus thing. It always surprises me when we have to cancel things or delay things or move things ahead. Sometimes it gives us so much anxiety to cancel a meeting or cancel something because, oh my goodness, something very bad is going to happen if I don't do it today or if I don't talk to that person the other day. That seldomly ever makes a huge difference. If you don't do it today and you do it next week, people adjust. It's most of the times not the end of the world, unless it's urgent. And if it's urgent, you'll know it. And you'll reschedule it. You can tell your assistant, you know what, this particular one, I need it tomorrow. I don't care if it's at 5 in the morning or at 8 p.m. at night. It needs to happen tomorrow. Okay, figure it out. And the other thing is, most of the times your assistants they are very black and white under scheduling because most of them are hourly employees and they work from 9 to 5. And you will be surprised how many times I have to call them again and tell them, because they tell me there's no time in nobody's agenda. It's like, did you look after 5 or before 9? Like, have you been that flexible? I'm telling you, it needs to happen tomorrow. I don't care if it's at 7, it needs to happen. So just give them that flexibility and they'll make it work.
Yeah, my assistant's been pretty good about, I really don't have a lot of uninterrupted. I think for me, part of it is I'll walk in and I do the index part. I read the one thing like a year ago or 2 years ago. And so I'll walk in with like an index part of here's 2 or 3 things I want to work on. But for me, it's like I'll start a lot of projects where I am delegating them now. And it's our first time going through the project. And so the team comes back to me for feedback. And so that's the part that I'm finding kind of like some difficulty in balancing, is that I want to get my 1 or 2 things done, but others are waiting for my feedback in order to move on with the project that I delegated in the first place.
Okay, then what happened, what I'm hearing you, is that most likely you haven't empowered them enough to make decisions. There are moments where they truly don't know what to do, and they will need a quick answer from you, but that needs to be quick. Do I do this or do I do that? If there are projects that are delayed, significantly delayed, until you can give them your attention, I'm not really sure that you either have the right person doing the project, or maybe there's an additional way in which you can train them and empower them to make the decision. So, one of the things that I am often talking about in some of the workshops that I teach is when you're training people, you don't train them on the actual activity only. Yes, of course, you give them a job description and a series of tasks that they need to do. This are all the things you need to do. This is more or less the cadence that needs to be done. You do that. But the most important part of the training is the criteria for decision making. If you can teach your people how to make decisions as closely as possible as how you think, you're going to get much more freedom than you think. You need to train them about how to think. When I started working here in HTM, I would spend hours and hours every single week talking to Artem. And every time I had a question, he didn't only answer the question, he taught me how the question was answered like that based on his criteria. To the extent that some of us that we have been working with him for a long time, we know what he's going to answer and why, in most cases, right? So to the extent that you can do that with your people, they will need you less. Of course, you might feel less important, that's another thing that maybe one day we talk about, right? Because that's hard on your ego. But you're going to make them much more profitable for you, much more independent, and it will give you way more freedom. Make sense?
Yeah, makes a lot of sense.
So welcome back. To close, this lesson today comes down to 3 things: focus, discipline, and math. You want to remember to choose one priority that truly matters right now and align every yes with that goal, and say no to every single distraction, even when it feels uncomfortable. Remember that before committing to anything new, you want to create a very simple business case. You want to estimate the time and money and resources involved in that project and compare that to the revenue or freedom or peace that it will generate for you and for your business. And do not forget, honoring your calendar is fundamental. You must delegate with intentionality and train your team to think for themselves, so not everything rests on your back. Remember that when your decisions are guided by clarity instead of pressure, your business stops reacting and will start growing with purpose. And that is what we do at the Exponential Entrepreneur Podcast. And now it is your turn to take action. Here is to your exponential growth. Stay healthy, stay hungry, and stay focused, and we will see you next time.
Thank you for listening to the Exponential Entrepreneur Podcast. We encourage you to take action on it today. Share what you've learned with another entrepreneur Sign up for our newsletter to get bonus content you won't get anywhere else at exponentialentrepreneur.com and subscribe to the Exponential Entrepreneur Podcast to receive the next episode. Until next time, keep breaking through limiting beliefs and growing exponentially.